Hello, everybody. This is the final Minstrels and Bards Salon. Minstrels and Bards will continue, but I think maybe one event a year. And it won't be a salon or a soirée. So I'm so happy to see people who are here at 6:30. Oh, wow. And with the cold. So we have a fabulous lineup. I'm sure you've all seen the flyer. I forgot to bring the bios, but it's okay because there's not going to be a lot of time to read bios anyway. So we have 8 highlights and 3 incredible features. And Giovanna and Lara are here. George will... So I'm just going to start with a land acknowledgement. And all right, this Minstrels and Bards soiree is situated on Indigenous land and Dish with One Spoon territory. This is traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations. Minstrels and Bards gratefully acknowledges these Indigenous nations for their guardianship of this land. We have 8 people who are all going to be doing highlights. So there's a couple of people here, but how about we start with you, Paul? Yeah? Is that good? Give me a second. And Pat, would you like to go next? Okay. All right.
So this is one called Casualties of the Liquid Nitrogen War. I had served as Poet Laureate for City Mississauga from 2019 to 2021, and I wrote this after a particularly frustrating multiple hour-long Zoom meeting that was just mired in bureaucracy. So this one's called, here's how it goes. We thought it was safe to start construction. The concrete foundation seemed all set. We didn't realize how 4-hour planning meetings with poker faces evaporated trust, and that every department had rushed ahead, secretly building private places beneath the communal layout of given blueprints. They made hidden subterranean halls and airtight headquarters in honeycomb gaps under poured cement. So a lead architect hangs their head, then goes quiet as they stare blankly beyond the fourth wall, as that conceived cross-disciplinary temple collapses through the thin crack of its base, with so many hollow cavities below high promise, every floor folding and falling into the one supporting it in an updated House of Usher. If the last family descendant had enough engineering knowledge to experience the extra tragedy of predicting cataclysms they still can't stop or even prevent. Thank you so much. There's relatively few poems that I write that are inspired by my teaching practice because I work as a high school teacher in Mississauga. And when I'm one of the few holdouts who's still comfortable enough to teach Shakespeare and kind of insists on doing it. But whenever I teach Macbeth, one thing that always strikes me is the way that the peacefulness of nature is tied to the peacefulness of the country's governance. And that as the political decisions of Macbeth get more and more effed up, the weather gets more and more screwed up at the exact same time. And I wondered how that would go if this happened in real life, and this poem came out here. And it unfortunately is continually relevant with world leaders making increasingly weird decisions, although I hope there's one day when it's no longer relevant. That would be the day if, as the Scottish play states, real leaders gone astray have to face how far they've fallen through increasingly deranged displays of pathetic fallacy, ones which plainly say how the world's balance has been displaced, where the king's horses break free of their stables and eat one another on the night of his murder. We'd have an easier time deciding society's path with similarly explicit, hideously misaligned signs of nature appearing alongside a nation's soul during each stage of its downfall. Maybe rabbits will stretch falcons into torture racks they've constructed out of sticks and woven leaf stems, should our figureheads align with vile players using nihilistic hate as their prayer. For now, we can at least begin by opening windows and filling evenings with lamentings and strange screams of death again. Thank you. And I'll finish off with the last two. Just continuing that whenever things get politically more unruly, people ask, why didn't you do that poem here? And this is a cover that I did. And again, it connected to teaching because of the fact once I was teaching about alliteration and one of the students said, oh, you mean like this scene from this movie? And I said, yeah, exactly. And we put it on and watched it. And I thought to myself, damn, that would be a good cover to do for spoken word. So here's how it goes. On this most auspicious of nights, permit me then, in lieu of the more commonplace sobriquet, to suggest the character of this dramatis persona. Voila! In view, a humble vaudevillian veteran, cast vicariously as both victim and villain by the vicissitudes of fate. This visage, no mere veneer of vanity, is a vestige of the vox populi, now vacant, vanished. However, this valorous visitation of a bygone vexation stands vivified, and has vowed to vanquish these venal and virulent vermin, vanguarding vice and vouchsafing the violently vicious and voracious violation of volition. The only verdict is vengeance, a vendetta held as a votive not in vain, for the value and veracity of such shall one day vindicate the vigilant and the virtuous. Verily, this vicious swath of verbiage veers most verbose, so let me simply add that it is my very good honor to meet you, and you may call me V. Thank you. So yeah, that's some V for Vendetta. Strangely, it's only in the film, not in the book, actually. That speech is only in the actually film version. And I'll finish with this very short, this last one. I thought about the things that we kind of sacrifice in the name of the greater good, and this one comes from another comic, actually, as a connection. The title comes from the comic book Watchmen, where Rorschach says about the sacrifice to the greater good. No point, nothing big about one more body amongst the foundations before he sacrifices himself. And this is how it goes. These serene dreams still need real brainstems for venomous insects to feast on. The first order of business after arriving in their utopia is to tattoo yourself with a reminder. Do not stop asking about who hasn't been seen in a while and why. It seems the beasts did market research, hiring publicists to assist the legions of voluntary defense attorneys following them, who bless each blasted heath their masters leave with endless apologies. Someone beckons from an alley near infinity, saying, "Put another inscription on your skin." It's not a peaceful solution if soft hearts are carved into foam for storing decommissioned weapon parts, or get fused with fossilized algae, stabilizing agents no one believes will behave if shaken. It may end up being that the solution is fleeing underground, leaving only graffiti behind, saying, "Find us if you're willing to start facing rising leviathans," instead of asking the most sensitive angels to jump from the edge of heaven. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And that's all for me. Appreciate it.
Good job, Paul. It's always hard to go first.
That was great. So Pat and then Allan was after Pat. Thank you very much. That was wonderful. Very good. I don't know. Thank you, Paul. It was wonderful having you finally. And and thank you for going first. And it's very strong poetry. And I know how you contain everything in your mind, but and acting ability. So yeah, we're very fortunate to have you. Next up is a wonderful man and a dear friend, Pat Connors.
Best bio ever. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you especially to everybody in the audience who's coming and just hanging out and watching poets on a freezing cold Wednesday night when you could be sitting inside and watching the Leaf game. You're watching us. Really grateful. The important thing at a time like this is to be ready. A poem is the sunrise after darkest night, an unexpected answer to much fervent prayer. It is grace extended from a neglected muse, only asking to be seen and shared and seen, heard and felt. A poem is inspiration quickly recorded before lost, cut down, built up, cut down again, until it is ready to be read. As you can tell, I hadn't read that one in a while. It's from my first book, The Other Life, and I hadn't read that in an early year, but I like opening readings with it. The next one is a little bit unusual because Christmas was a month ago, but I'm not going to be able to read it again until next Christmas, and it is the second last poem that I wrote. So, preparation. Christmas Eve, the most popular day of the year for men to go shopping, or at least the most likely one. But he has set this day apart to linger over the pages of a good book or three and fill notebooks with words of his own. He makes a place for the pain felt and imagined over the last year, then does his best to make peace with it. He prepared in advance to be able to show his family tangible affection. His reward is not going to a mall today. Tomorrow will be the time for celebration. Everyone sharing the table will eat a lot and drink a little and be very happy. Today in awe he ponders the gifts of joy even in times of sadness and faith in new beginnings. Thank you. I started writing this on the day of January the 9th. It was when the wildfire was in its third day, and it was the day of mourning for Jimmy Carter, who he was a terrible president, but he was a wonderful human being, and I don't know, this just sort of all came out. Mourning. January 9th has been declared a day of mourning by our neighbors to the south. This is to mark the passing of Jimmy Carter, an uncelebrated politician, yet one of the greatest men of this age. Meanwhile, wildfires in Los Angeles rage as they have for 2 days. There are reports of 5 dead, not including pets and wild animals, and 100 buildings destroyed. These numbers must be greatly understated. As of 3:30 this morning, Pacific time, there are 5 wildfires. Like all great battles, they have each been given names. One of them, Palisades, is on its own the most destructive ever recorded in Los Angeles and is 0% extinguished. The skill and courage of the emergency personnel are no match for these infernos, especially when they all erupt at the same time. The water pressure recedes until hydrants run dry and the firefighters' energy and hope ebbs. It hadn't rained very much for many months. Today it rains wood, slag rock, and adobe, blown by near hurricane force Santa Ana winds. Pre-dawn is ablaze with apocalyptic light, and the afternoon sky is dark and fearful as night. Will insurance brokers aid those who paid their premiums? What of the middle income and poor who have lost everything, when even the wealthy and famous watched in horror as their houses razed to the ground? Earlier this week, Justin Trudeau prorogued Parliament until March 23rd. While this gives him time to prepare for his impending career change, the government should be getting ready for unnatural disasters of our own. Where are the servant leaders like Jimmy Carter? How many more cities must burn before we make a real effort to save this planet? Thank you very much, Brenda, for having me. Thank you to the Transact for hosting this. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you so much, Pat. And yes, Pat is political. And, full of feeling. And the simplicity of your work is always wonderful, Yeah, yeah. And it's from the heart, always from the heart. So thank you, and thank you. Another round for Pat. And next up is the one and only Allan Weiss. Go!
Thank you, and thank you, Brenda, for making me a part of this series, even though I'm not really a minstrel or a bard. I do fiction. I'll try to correct some of that toward the end. But anyway, what I'd like to do is to just read the opening of my recently published historical novel about the Winnipeg General Strike called Bread and Stone. 60,000 dead. William nearly gasped when he saw the headline. For a moment he couldn't speak. William? What is it? He wet his lips and angled the newspaper to catch a bar of light falling through the kitchen window. One top corner curled over the bowl of waxed fruit his mother used as a centerpiece. Great Battle of Verdun has already brought death record of 60,000. He glanced at Ma. Her hand covered her mouth. The German War Office reported not only great gains against the French positions around Verdun, but the capture of a French advanced post with a garrison of 50 miles south of Metz. He continued through the article, but his eyes kept rising to that number, which was like something made up, impossible, one of the problems in his business mathematics book. And Jimmy Corning was in the middle of it. Arthur went on rearranging the logs by the stove as if all that mattered in the world was building a stable stack. Then he lowered himself onto the chest beneath the window, resting his arms along his thighs as he balanced on its rounded iron-ribbed lid. He inflated and deflated his cheeks over and over. He never tried to hide his boredom. German siege artillery will be set at once against the Verdun forts if the Teutons can maintain the positions they claim to have gained. William paused, hoping Ma would ask him to stop. Her ancient clock with its gold numerals and mahogany case ticked away behind his head. Opposite the clock were the cardboard calendar from the Northwest Fire Insurance Company and the 3 oval photographs, Ma's parents and stepsister, that had gazed down at him forever. William couldn't sit here any longer, staring at the biscuit tins full of old letters from England, and the enameled wash basin, and the ghost-white candles. He ran his thumb up and down the underside of his braces at his left shoulder, and his leg wouldn't stay put. Go on, dear. It's better to know. William hated the words, the descriptions of fire and death that came out of his mouth, even if they weren't his own, as if they were private things better left in the dark. He'd been reading to Ma about the war since the beginning. After he'd quit going to Miss Lapham's school, she kept on him about his reading, said he had a knack for it and shouldn't waste it. While Dad was off scraping coal out of the ground all week and living in the company bunks, Ma had made him read the Calgary Daily Herald and the High River Times to her before sending them on. Dad had always said the newspapers were important, powerful, representing the rights of a British subject, like freedom of the press and right to demonstrate. Fight for them, lad. Don't ever give them up. But words like these, all that death and horror, made him feel as if he were deliberately filling the house with ugliness. He read the names of the dead and wounded in case she knew their families, and tried to console her with the good news. Although since the new year there'd been little of that, the 31st Calgary was in the thick of the fight, commanded by H.P. Ketchum, a war hero who'd fought in South Africa. He's a good man, Ma had said as he read out the details of his career. With him leading them, the boys will do it. Yes, Ma. She had no idea what it meant for him. The newspapers published articles saying how much the country needed men. There was a poem in the Herald addressed to someone who wouldn't enlist, telling him he had to choose between being a slacker or a man. The papers spoke all the time about the men who'd chosen to serve, and the word jumped off the page every time he saw it burning like a brand. Now, later on, William participates in the general strike as a pro-strike veteran. And in the process, what they do is they march down the street, the main street, of course, of Winnipeg in support of the strikers. The scene that I usually read from is somewhat longer than 5 minutes, and it involves the army songs that they sing while they're marching. Since I don't have enough time to do that today, what I thought I'd do is just end by being a bit of a minstrel and singing one of the army songs, one verse of one of the army songs, just to show that I actually belong in this series and that I can't sing. Mademoiselle from Armentières, parlez-vous? Mademoiselle from Armentières, parlez-vous? She really was a hell of a miss, but now it burns whenever I piss. Hinky-dinky, parlez-vous? Thank you.
It really is a brilliant book. I'm only at the trenches, though. I have to get through the trenches. But William, it's phenomenal. Highly recommended, and incredibly well researched and well written, and the characters are completely believable, and everything. So yeah, he may have some copies with him. Thank you, Allan, and thank you for your, as ever, wonderful humor. Thank you. And next is one of my wonderful friends, Jennifer Hosein. She's a fellow painter, poet, and was a single mother. We've known each other, I don't know, quite a while now. So come on up. So happy to have you. And she's a very long-term supporter of the series. She comes every month. Being a realtor.
Thanks, that should work. I noticed. Yeah, I'm going to miss this, and it's an honor to be here on this special finale. So thank you, Brenda, for all your wonderful, all the years of wonderful words and music. I'm going to also be political, but I'll start off with something about my mom. No? Okay. I need my glasses for these. Okay, so I'm just going to start off with a couple of poems regarding my mother, who went through a hard time in the winter. I'm going to begin with a poem that reflects the way I feel moving through this world right now. It's called A Map of Rain Days. Okay. I'm bent by the way that these things go. Put my face in my hands and pull the skin taut across miles and miles. Walk down the corridors in my mother's bruised shoes. My mother's toes are crooked and curled in a misguided, arthritic map of rain days. And my mother, then after she had a stroke, and the next poem is Heart. Sorry, I need my glasses. All right. My mother's heart begins to drift away, but we are selfish and tell her to let them fix it, and we pace and pace the days. Don't tell her it's a poor sign aortic valves open and close that keeps her herself until she is not herself. Voice crooked, face fallen, buttons askew, and pants half on the floor. I cannot begin. Beloved mother is a clipped-winged bird that floats around in lace-edged nightgowns, soft skin like a schoolgirl's, shooing away the cats and always packing her clothes to go home. And I'm going to get a little political now. So, I began writing the next poem before the 2016 U.S. election, and I finished it right after the 2016 election. And right now I have no words, but I'll read my old words for you. I used to daydream, so it's called White. I used to daydream that white was a tablet you could place on your tongue, and the morning would be a better place. But here, now, in my tiny radius of the world, I pass through doors and no one sees me or calls me names to my face. But it's only here that I pass, in perfectly pressed clothes that I nip and tuck to not draw attention to my skin. Not north, where I am a dark spot on snow. Not south, where I am a stain that warrants walls to keep me out, registries, bullets, and jails. The other day it occurred to me that I didn't wish to be white anymore, the way I had wished when I was 10 and 7 and 5, the first time I was punched, spit on, pushed, barred, called Paki, and go back to your country, and you don't belong. That was a long time ago when I couldn't walk with my head up or down. But yesterday they put a noose around a boy's neck and yanked, and they are yelling, "Go back to where you came from, and your time's up," and I think I might need that pill soon. That was 2016 when I wrote that. And the next poem, I'm just going to read a couple of newer pieces. The next poem is January 2024, Ohio. Away from home, time meanders beyond the glimmer of Christmas lights, through rain that won't stop on the eve of 2024. Neighbors have hung flashy balloons and rainbow flags, but the night is muted. Our bellies full, the babies settled on our laps. Days pass, and in a frenzy of diapers, the baby beams and giggles. So I only think of bottles, nipples, and dinner. But one evening, I open Instagram, where mothers bend over the silence of children waiting to be wrapped in cloth, gifts to the absence of heaven. I tug on the howl that shoots out of me, swallowing it whole so as not to wake the house in the presence of this unimaginable. And in the morning, soothe my grandson's hair, keening inside, though my face is stoic and smiling in the comfort of our heated rooms. On the last night, I break the dishwasher in the Airbnb, ignoring the rumble inside the bargain basement appliance. Had I only listened. But I did not. And why are we not listening to a world hurting so badly it would slaughter its children? I hope for better. And my last poem is White Lies. How to be in the presence of. Don't draw attention. Don't point out a truth that will bring unease. Lean into dusk to not stand out. Be invisible, imperceptible. Bypass treacherous nights when you are able, and don't ever lose your cool, as cold as an ice straitjacket. Hold your dignity deep where they cannot lay hands on it. Clutch the myriad fragments of you. The almost sound of your feet brushing the eggshells strewn about your days. The incessant terror, the pandering to your superiors and inferiors so they don't turn you in for what you haven't done. Silence is your bread and butter, but it's time to break the bread. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Brenda, for inviting me to share this special evening with you.
It's always wonderful to have Jennifer. There's a lot of depth to her poetry, and, the difficulties of living and losses we suffer. And her writings are beautiful. So I'm so happy she came and read. Her book, A Map of Rain Days, was published by Guernica. Do you have some copies with you? Yes. So she does have copies with her. So thank you, Jennifer. And next up is Patti Cole. Patti is a singing poet. Yoo! And she's in a really big choir, and they go to the States and they put on performances. She's an absolutely beautiful voice.
Oh, no.
So, no, you can read and you can
thank
do
you,
whatever you
yeah.
like.
No, I'll do a little of both.
Okay.
But when she tells you have a beautiful voice and then what if it didn't work? Oh,
No.
no pressure. Right. Okay. Since it's really,
Your best poet right now. Yeah.
thank you so much. It's really nice to be here. Really, really nice. Except for those guys, but it's just wonderful to be here. I'm honored to be here for the finale thing. It was exactly a year ago that I did a feature here, and I felt so wonderful doing it. And that choir she talks about is called North Metro Chorus, and it's a cappella chorus, like barbershop. And we just came back from Kansas City, and I tried to find 12th Street and Vine, but I couldn't find it. If you get that, if you know about Kansas City. And come on, you must know Kansas City. You know, I'm standing on the corner of 12th Street and Vine. Got some crazy little women there and, you know, or men there, and we're all going to, and never mind. We won the world anyway. We won the world championship. There were 32 countries and eight countries, 32 choruses. Okay, yeah. So, and we did Les Mis and we danced and oh yeah, and I just am a really big ham, so it was really fun. Yeah, it was really fun. Thank you. And so I'm one of 120 people. So I'm just a little tiny person, but you know, I have a little place in there. Now, as I raced out the door, and I probably live closer than anybody to this, I came out with pages 3 to 6 of my script. And Jennifer, wherever you are now, helped me and get a pen. So if I'm messing around, then you'll see. Okay. Do you ever find yourself living in patterns? Patterns of love, maybe. Heartbreak love. Where every moment is choreographed to encase, and every word is calculated and bleeding. And you know, it takes more than a minute to get out of love. It takes more than a minute to get out of love, to pick up the pieces, to open the love to the sunlight, to see if it flows, to see if it flows away from you, as you pray it be, as you know it must be. It takes more than a minute. It takes more than a minute. And then you remember thinking a choice will consume forever. And you ask the air, do you ever come by to watch me, to see if I'm all right, to see if my car is clear of the snow that fell in the night? Do you ever look to my doorway and look for the open light, to imagine my heart is full of the words that come in the night? Do you ever lean in to listen, to embrace the angelic voice, to embrace the sounds you drew from when love was the only choice? Do you ever recall the ritual, the tea in the purple bowl, the tea in the cup of courage, the music that came from my soul? Do you ever come by to watch me, to see if I'm all right, to see if my car is clear of the snow that fell in the night? Thank you. And then you remember the choice, and you cry out, and suddenly you know I had to let you go. I had to set me free, for I seemed little to you, and you, the world, to me. And you realize I belong. I belong where peace can find me, where peace has called my name, where peace is soothing comfort and moves within the frame, where burdens duly noted wait quietly aside, where love for me and others so blissfully resides. I belong in rooms of color, in rooms of warm and cool, in rooms where windows beckon, day's light and nighttime's jewel, where burdens duly noted wait quietly aside, where love for me and others so blissfully resides. I belong in rooms. Now, oh, geez, excuse me. I belong where peace can find me. Now, did I do that one already? Where peace? You have to forgive me because I think I've done the other. I can't really see this. Okay, I'll start again. Okay, I'll do the whole thing again. All right. I belong where peace can find me, where peace has called my name, where peace is soothing comfort and moves within the frame, where burdens duly noted wait quietly aside, where love for me and others so blissfully resides. I belong in rooms of color, in rooms of warm and cool, in rooms where windows beckon, day's light and night time's jewel, where burdens duly noted wait quietly aside, where love for me and others so carefully resides. I belong in streets of wonder, in streets of dream and lure, in streets where true life reaches beyond the sane and pure, where burdens duly noted wait quietly aside, where love for me and others forgivingly resides. I belong in truths of love songs, in truths of heart's desires, in truths of magic touches and passion nights of fire, and duly noted wait quietly aside, where love for me and others, where love for me and others. Da 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 da. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, Brenda said I might have a minute or two extra. So I want to tell you I had a most joyous January because I have a new grandchild. So I wrote this for her. It just came. You know what it's like. It comes to all of you. And so I wrote, it came, beautiful brown eyes. I have a new grandchild. Sweet girl, it's true. The love and rejoicing that's waiting for you will be heard from the rooftops, celebrated all round. Our beautiful brown eyes, our treasure is found. And the light from your eyes will blue up the skies, and the angels in heaven will send you replies, and the sun as she rises will sing every morn, and the moon shine his praises. Sweet brown eyes was born. Oh, thank you so much, dears. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, what a voice, huh? And Patti is just an absolutely wonderful person. So thank you, and brown eyes. She has brown eyes. So thank you again to Patti. And congratulations on winning for Canada. Yo! So next is Marty. I'm so happy he's here. He's had some serious health issues. He looks great. You look fantastic. Marty has been such an amazing supporter of the poetry community. He goes out, he videos people, he posts them on YouTube under his YouTube account, OneCloud. And I just want to support other people in the community who are supporting the community by documenting us. So welcome, Marty.
Thank you.
And he's an artist too.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Many of you know that in October I had open heart surgery, and I thought I'd take the opportunity to share I got a new understanding on a couple of fundamental things from the experience of the post-op recovery, which was 2 weeks at St. Mike's Hospital. Hug yourself, and eating is also hard work. Hug yourself. Hug a friend also. When I came out of the anesthesia at the ICU, I remember most the words, hug yourself. They're practical. It's a practical statement that's said by the staff when they come in to move your body for some procedure. It's practical because they want you to hold your chest together. But the words took on such a big meaning in my mind. Hug yourself. It feels good. It's well known that hugs are really release positive chemical reactions in your body. So when we hug each other, we get really great physiological effects for our lung and heart functions. But hug yourself. I realized I hadn't cared for myself that way in a long time. The experience of post-op recovery was strenuous. But hug yourself kept being said by everyone who attended to me when they had to come to remove tubes that were sticking out all over. I was scheduled for checking vitals every hour and removing things every few hours. There were things sticking out, wires and stuff that every few hours had to be removed from here to there. But the words hug yourself every time made me realize I had to care for myself. And eating is hard work. The effect of anesthesia on your body for like a 6-hour procedure is it completely shuts down all of your biological functions. And as it turns out, after I was in recovery, my digestive system didn't know what it was supposed to do anymore. So it took about 12 days for my body to completely learn how to eat. Even after the after all the procedures, eating was difficult. My throat would swell up, my neck would hurt, my shoulders would hurt. But those effects have resolved. So I realized after I'd been in the recovery ward for about 4 days that nobody was getting out of the hospital until they could get out of bed themselves, walk to the toilet, and poop. So I set my goal, getting out of bed. Hug yourself, roll over to your side, hang your legs over the edge, let the weight lift your body, don't push. Wiggle to the edge, lean forward, chest over your feet, push off the ground. Yeah. So, after a week, I still couldn't poop or pee. All I could produce was gas and liquid waste. Then finally one morning, the nurse said my blood pressure was okay. And they just wanted my sodium levels to come down to a certain number, and the next day, the results of the blood work came in. They said that I could go home. And then I've been on a treatment plan, so I'm in good condition. I just am recovering, but hug yourself. And eating is hard work. Thank you.
Wow, thank you for sharing that with us, Marty. Wow. And I'm so glad you're through it. And on the other side, sorry, I'm got a vitamin C in my mouth. I must say your color is completely different than it was before. So it's also all that extra oxygen. So your heart is working, and and hug yourself. Yeah. Yes. So thank you so much. And another round for Marty. And Georgia Wilder. Woo! Of Foy House and many other.
And yes, so I have a choice. I can either do a poem that I think is pretty well honed now, or I can do this rant that I just wrote. The rant? Okay, all right, I'll rant, okay. All right, a rough rant, here we go. It's called Inauguration Day, January 20th, 2025. I let the TV run all night because it blares in the darkness, and the glare of the screen cuts the dim that sits heavy all night on my chest and fogs up my eyes like I have glasses, but I don't. I have eye fog, and coffee helps, but not enough. I stick to the couch and can't move because it's already too late to make a good start, and the love of my life, who rises at 4 a.m., has already done all the things I imagined I'd do to be a better person for her. Last night's dishes in the cat boxes and shoveling the walk, and there's nothing left to do but my own laundry, but she snuck in another load of towels and finished her marking before 7 so she can have an online call with her oncologist after she finishes the next chapter of the 8th book she's read this week. And she does it she does a second workout while I debate putting on the kettle for another cup of instant and watch the huddle of tech billionaires find their seats in the White House rotunda. I put the TV on mute, and she sits down with her green tea and her book. After 16 weeks of chemo, exercise brings her back to herself, she says, and it will make recovery faster when they cut off her breasts next month. She works online, has rarely missed a shift. I snap at her. I don't have clean underwear, and the shower will be cold. She looks up at me over the edges of her clear, lashless eyes and says, "You're upset with me for washing all the towels like I always do? Just go commando and take an Uber. Nobody'll notice." I say, "Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm upset with myself." And she says it's okay, that we always misplace our anger sometimes. She says I can make it up by salting the walk, but salting the walk doesn't touch my guilt, and I have no excuse for feeling angry. The driver narrates every turn with the excitement of a radio sportscaster, the play-by-play of cars who cut him off, the injustice of every red light, the moral outrage of streets barred by construction. "I guess you aren't used to driving downtown in rush hour," I say. And he looks back at me in the rearview mirror and says, "Well, I guess at your age, you've seen it all." I tell him I want to get out early and walk for a bit. The wind cuts through my thin tights, and the cold reaches in and fingers my naked cunt. I have no way to fight the violation, like the border between myself and the outside world is dissolving, yet it's all my own fault. I want to crawl under a bush until the spring thaw. I used to think I could run an empire, be magnanimous, bring about change in the world, but I am my worst self, my needy, paralyzed victim, stress-eating self. I am here in the empty mansion I used to own and now lease back from the developer who I sold it to, who will wreck it someday. In my grandiose plans, I buy it back, but today I do nothing. A photographer is using the first floor for a photo shoot. I finish teaching my online class. I should scrub the floors and water the plants and mark some essays, but instead I am thinking about the Anthropocene and the fossil records dissolving at the bottom of the sea and the climate change opening the Northwest Passage and the 47th President of the United States dancing to YMCA as Los Angeles burns, and how U.S. women and trans people and everyone queer has just lost their rights to their bodies, and how detention camps are being set up for mass deportations by a man who sells Bibles but won't put his hand on one to take an oath, and Joe Biden, who has quietly passed the ERA and managed a ceasefire in the Middle East on the eve of his departure, who nods off during church service as a preacher talks about the darkness of the past 4 years and how God has miraculously delivered his people to the salvation of a new leader who will restore the truth of Christ to their lives. And I can feel the erasure of borders, of Canada, Greenland, of my body, and of bodies cut and reshaped, of my lover's tender breasts, of our agency as queer women. The photographer knocks on the kitchen door and says he's done for the day. And how lovely are the corbels on the neoclassical arches. I see his eyes flick to the outer edge of the tiled floor where 2 tiny mice chase each other in circles. I pretend not to notice, like looking away will make them unhappen, but I wonder if I might be forced to kill them tomorrow. Thank you. And by the way, there are, aside from the mice, which, do inhabit Foy House, there's art stuff going on, and I'd really love to have everybody involved, and if anybody is available or wants to be involved or have an arts event there of some kind, we've just incorporated as a nonprofit. So there's some good news. We've got to fight the system. Thank you.
Georgia, please rant anytime. That was very powerful. And it just encompassed everything. Like everything. Wow. And this moment in history, this moment that we're living through. So, yes, thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah. Foy House is going to continue. Georgia, if I may say, has signed a year lease. She's incorporated as a not-for-profit or non-profit. And she would like to create a kind of community house with memberships and events. And so she's very open to ideas. And any brainstorming you might want to do, or as she.
And come by, I'm there maybe Saturday or something.
Yeah. So yes. Book your events at Foy House. Fabulous mansion, and an amazing woman. So Myna was a late-minute addition, and I think we have a few minutes. She can come up and read a poem or two. So I'm so happy that we're able to do this. Yes, you. Yep. Okay, so Myna's wonderful. She's written The Suicide Tourist. She's written incredible poems on mental health issues. And being a woman, just living in the world, as a feeling, thinking, yes. I mean, as everybody. Come on and read.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Thank you for fitting me in. I'll be under 5 minutes. George, I just want to say that was so painful and so funny all at the same time. It's really great. And everyone, it's really a pleasure and sad to see this ending. Anyway, this is from The Suicide Tourist. Came out about 6 months ago. And you might have heard this one, but I'm going to read it anyway because I like it. It's called Mania. So there's two sides, obviously, to bipolar disorder, and that's what I wrote about mostly. And I'm so lucky to have it. And it's mania and depression. And in my earlier life, I had a lot of depression. But for some reason, as I get older, mania has taken over. So that's what this is about. I could power the city's electrical grid with my personal dynamism. I'm awake, present, ferociously excited, fascinated by everything. Mania sneaks up on me like tequila. I'm Maria in The Sound of Music, twirling. The idea that sleeping is a waste of time creeps in. I'm fully dressed, wearing galoshes, crumpled on a chair in front of the droning TV, absorbing the sunrise. Muddled, I can't sleep, not even by the TV, not even a cat nap. I'm in deep space now. I call my boyfriend 3 a.m. Do you want to break up with me? Somebody is moving and hiding things in my home, creating piles of detritus, unpaid bills, medication. A Sprite hides my drink between sips. I tumble through weeks of self-preservation. I tumble through weeks until self-preservation finally makes an appearance, when I see constant alarm on loved ones' faces, fearful for my cognition. Once the chaotic energy has wrung me dry, a weird clarity emerges, shaking my fist at a careless God. The next one is called In Session, and talks about some of the worst therapists I've had in my life. Part 1. Oh, did I say In Session? Yeah, Part 1. The troll, sideburns, pasty, pinned me onto 1970s floor pillows with his stubby legs, hairy arms, fetid breath, instructing me to primal scream, set me free, leave me alone. I shouted till I was hoarse and worse, felt unclean, violated. Part 2. The runway model had pointy red talons, swanned into appointments in black wool cape, and knee-high red boots, trailing a sweet perfume. Her eyebrows replaced with light hand-drawn crescents. Once, while I cried loudly and profusely, she called the lobby pharmacy to bring me something to soothe me immediately. She didn't like demonstrations of grief, tried to dampen my depression with her soft voice. She employed her script pad with quiet enthusiasm. Once she invited me to her pristine home, marble beige, with hallways of happy family photos, and asked me not to talk about my problems. This was a visit, not a session. Many years later, I spotted her in a restaurant, penciled eyebrows intact. She had no recollection who I was. 3. The Freudian had piercing blue eyes, a large balding head, sucked his pencil eraser, and wriggled his seated groin in gross flirtation. He was a smug bastard, a fan of rules, had me sign a form stating I wouldn't deal my prescription drugs on the street. Thin-skinned, furious when I insulted, "Did you get your diploma in a box of Cracker Jacks?" His notes from our last session whitewashed, no mentioning of his ending our trysts like a guilty husband, or of me screaming that I was quitting him. Years later, he had emotional struggles and a serious breakdown of his own. I admit to a delirious, delicious rush of schadenfreude. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Myna. And you have copies of your book with you.
A couple, yeah.
Yeah. So our final highlight, is Steve Paul Sims. And he's been a long-term supporter of this series. And there's probably quite a few video clips of him over the years. And I'm just so happy he could make it out for this final session.
Me too.
Yeah. So he was introduced to me by Jim McQuaig, Karen Schenfeld's. I don't know if they were married, but
Vino Russell. Back at the Vino
but
Russell.
Jim said, "You've got to come to the Transac and hear this guy. His songs are brilliant." And they sure are. He used to play here once a month, and I would come, and I don't know, like your Ingrid's. I mean, I've listened to some of your songs like 50 times. Like, and that just doesn't happen with.
That's more than I've listened to any.
There's always another level, yeah. So anyway, Steve Paul.
This tune is called So Long because it's an old song that I've never got around to recording. It's a good one. But I thought it would be appropriate because we're kind of saying so long to Brenda in a very limited sense, luckily, you know. And I've had so much fun knowing her, and she even drew my picture once, but I can't. This is a song about the difficulties that two people have in a relationship. It's a whole new world of songwriting, I think. It's a whole kind of subject matter. So long. They're into the worst part, right after the first part, the farewell to freedom and the making of rules. Names in the diary come under inquiry, two lovers behaving like a couple of fools. So long to all those many silly indiscretions. So long, all those lazy dreams. So long, all those crazy fantasizing sessions. Hello, they're down to business schemes. The bills on the table, the budget unable, the leak in the faucet, ain't no washer will mend. The before and after, in the sound of their laughter, it looks like it's downhill from beginning to end. So long, the silent conversations last forever. So long between the babies' cries. So long since anybody said anything clever or saw themselves in each other's eyes. Then a slip of the tongue and he stumbles among all those big nasty words he's been saying. So she giggles through tears and the rage disappears. In a couple of minutes they're playing. Now it's easy ignoring the sound of his snoring. Her instant spaghetti never tasted so right. They're flirting and teasing and scratching and squeezing, and the touch of no other could impart such delight. So long to anybody selling easy answers. So long to any half-done deal. So long to slipping out with garden gate romancers. We'll take what you got that's real. Let it last so long. So long, so long. Thank you. Well, Brenda gave me an idea for the second song. This is a tune from my all-time favorite movie star. I've got a lot of them, too, but she tops the bill. Goes like this. I like to go to the movies. I'm old-fashioned that way. I like to sit in a big dark room in the middle of a blazing August day. Sometimes I have to watch DVDs 'cause they don't play what I want to see. From Garbo to Brando to Peter O'Toole, Cagney and Edward G. and anything with Ingrid. Anything with Ingrid. Anything with Ingrid. I don't care. Anything with Ingrid. Anything with Ingrid. Anything with Ingrid. I'll be there. I heard all about the Seventh Seal and cries and whispers too. But Ingrid's the only Bergman for me. A moody old man won't do. How can I get to Rick's Cafe on the Orient Express? I have an indiscreet intermezzo at the Inn of the Six Happiness. Anything with Ingrid. Anything with Ingrid. Anything with Ingrid. I don't care. Anything with Ingrid. Anything with Ingrid. Anything with Ingrid. I'll be there. Turn on the gas light. I feel notorious tonight. And I'm spellbound by your smile. Here's looking at you, kid. It's not so much the things you did, but you did them with such style. Here's to Carrie and Gary and Spencer and Leslie and Bogey and Boye and Bing. Gregory Peck, Tony Perkins and Quinn and Yul Brynner, the Siamese King. What a lineup of cinemas, luckiest boys and the cream of their fortune by far is they all got the chance to gaze into the eyes of that bright international star. Anything with Ingrid. Anything with Ingrid. Anything with Ingrid. I'll be there. Then when Hollywood came to condemn you and America said amen, Ingrid, you carried on living your life till they came to their senses again, raising your beautiful children, acting to save your soul. Just by being yourself, you set such an example. That was your greatest role, yeah. Princess Anastasia on a Roman piazza with the world's paparazzi at your garden gate. Joan of Arc in a brand new play. You're the toast of the great white way. A photographer's sweetheart, a director's mate. Your papa put you in front of a camera, but the rest of the world kept you there. You keep me pinned to the edge of my seat with that voice and a beauty so rare. I've seen this movie at least 7 times. I could watch it a dozen times more. Now for whom do the bells of St. Mary still toll? Tell me when I count to 4. 2, 3, 4. Ingrid. 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 I don't care, I really don't. Anything with Ingrid. Anything with Ingrid. Anything with Ingrid. I'll be there. Thank you, Brenda. Love you.
Thank you all.
Wow. I mean, the intricacy of Ingrid, and how can you get an entire biography of a movie star into a 5-minute song? But I've listened to that song so many times, and I think I love it more each time. And Ingrid, and love Ingrid, yes. Thank you so much. Another round for Steve Paul, and for all 9 people who came up and shared a poem or two, or a song, or so appreciate it. We're going to have a break now, and we're back at 8 o'clock on the dot for 3 amazing features. So enjoy. I'm going to pass the jug around, get a drink, chat, mingle, and I'll see you in, I guess, 15, yeah. I managed to come out and leave the lists and the bios at home for my last salon. So Lara is a poet and singer. We'll just wait a minute. Just finish your sentences or your paragraph. We're coming back now. Yeah. Or finish your thought, your verbal thought. So Laura's going to be presenting some new material. I'm extremely happy to have her here. I've wanted her to feature forever. I never thought she would, and here she is. She's an amazing singer and writer and person. And she's going to tell you about herself because I don't have her bio with me. So welcome, Lara Solnicki.
Thanks so much. Whoopsies.
Okay,
Everything okay? No, we're still good.
We're good.
So I think rather than talk about myself, I'd like to talk a bit about this piece. How's the sound level right now? Okay? Great. I've been writing this piece for over 5 years, and it is, without spending the whole time talking about that too, but this is a contemporary tragedy in 4 what I call tableaux vivants that are, it's going to be recited poetry with some music that is both through composed and electronic, an electronic score that comes in and out. It's going to be about at least an hour to read it. So far I've written 3 of the tableaux. They're not necessarily in final draft, and I've extracted parts of it to try to make some kind of like storyline make sense in the way that this piece actually makes sense. So this is a contemporary tragedy about a relationship between a film producer and director. It is inspired by forensic psychology, a lot of other things. Actually, you might notice some kind of nods to David Lynch in Tableau 3. And there's a couple of nods actually to Ingrid Bergman and Jules Boyer. So I have actually recorded some of the sonic stuff for the second tableau that is not being used tonight. But I recently have recorded some loops for Tableau 3 that are sort of like, consider them sketches. Some of them, I'm not sure how I'll be using them yet. I'm just throwing them in some kind of like, in the spirit of improvisation to some extent. But Tableaus 1 and 2 are not having any sound. So, The Angels, Wilhelmina. Perception is a lens, chain of events, a formidable collar that swells its subject to the crystal limit of a domestic compound, then tightens to harness in acquiesced hand. Flesh-toned curtain draw back. Behold a black box of unknown estimations. And the jewel is a small blonde woman. She weaves a green finger beneath the Prussian blue sky. In oxy, hydrogen limelight burns, colorless, odorless, out of view. Illuminates one thing, thereby obscuring all others. Two willows in a sunless corner of a callow garden shimmer for an instant, like the quickening of small wrists faceted to a shadow that looms colossus. Cracked voices funnel retroactively through an IV in an unforeseen future on a hospital bed. Luminous the attendants, or should the subject be? Phantasmagoria, the moon's a restless pepper's ghost. Renee, come and look at the evening. A man unhinges French doors and steps out from a balcony. He's been revising a budget. He's been writing a letter to her family in Germany. Wilhelmina. Blessed be she who makes a distinction between sacred and profane, between light and darkness. She drops her spade and gloves and they embrace. The glistening moon anoints her face. As I mentioned, I'm going to be jumping around. So this is a section about Wilhelmina's origins. Oh, it's much louder here, isn't it? It's a terrible thing to be born after a war. Family means so much to Wilhelmina. Fallen treasure cities where once reigned a king. Listless chairs, mousy hairs, a window streaming white light. Something was writhing in ashes, something new. Cracked womb, moonscape daughter of muck, slapped on the back, you took your first breath, and all the blue eyes fell on you. Thrusting spoons, sucking marrow from ersatz meats, you grew and grew with a taste for Burgundy. But boredom courses through thicker than loyalty, climbs walls with hoovering Wunderlust. Outside, taupe velvet clouds combust, sugar glimmers among dust. Sweet amphibian, the dim familiars swoon to the slits of your resting gaze. Blackout, scene change. And you are the candelabria that ignites the void, the hand that waves the sets. Sweet chameleon, clinking scales like trinkets, seething novel flits of impulse, of imaginings. Motion picture sweeping view, each phase in interception. Your skin will learn to flush, sinuous, a panorama of stages. It's a little later on now. And all the blue eyes fell on you. Fountain of envy, whisk of mirrors in mellifluous succession, sputter, drop to kneel. Swath a blanket, gold-braided wicker basket, petals, hair, lipstick or a marker. Wrap a red rose and white silk on a midsummer's eve. I can't believe we've never met. 7 days and 7 nights, sky-clad as the moon is waxing, until you see his face in morning light. Burn or scatter the ashes or bury it. And all the blue eyes fell on you, fountain of envy, whirring spears in mellifluent imperception. Ah, those nights of glass, crystal nights, born of a dream. Gush forward, fall to kneel. Shatter beliefs. It's a terrible thing to be born after a war. Wilhelmina's worked so hard for all she has, for all she's become. Sudden flurry, the fluttering of what might be birds, hazily descend, encircle the lovers. They have come to pay visitation. They have come to bear witness to new love. One figure emerges. He's come to enunciate. He means to say that the place of oppression has become a place of refuge. There's been a misunderstanding. The perpetrators are in fact the victims. The victims are in fact the perpetrators. That the king of the Jews will be taking on the role of Pharaoh. That Wilhelmina his queen has chosen and saved him, René, this dejected, bitter man, recognizing his specialness, or he, she, and that his former dependents will be exposed and punished for making his life ordinary. So that's not the end of Tableau 1, but we're moving into Tableau 2 now. A skilled magician learns to slice the upper from the lower with a feint of eye and sleight of hand, gold man. What are the chances a man stands, happenstance, on the other side of the door you just opened, up a burgundy velvet ramp to a fountain pool, a villa in Sicilia rippling on a silver screen, mirror flower water moon. A man with a black beard and a cross on a chain, and then there was that evening. The low hanging sky, the canopy of vines, an old Mediterranean recipe, a sun-kissed crimson evening shade, vermilion for gold man peel orange, Negroni and a sapphire sky, July was dripping. Wilhelmina, she has that way of pulling your focus. I don't recognize you. I don't recall seeing you. René, it was the after party. Park Plaza, the premiere of Cassandra, said the man. Wilhelmina Weiss, blonde mise-en-scène gamine. René Goldman, producer, exécutif, toupé, apparatif. René Goldman, Wilhelmina Weiss. Glass table, couch, chairs. The stars were going there. And together they entered every room, eyes and legs in every direction, up the walls, on tables, in bars, restaurants, and small private parties. In the elevator at the Park Plaza Hotel, Wilhelmina Weiss, daughter of the unremarkable, flashed, sweet chameleon, a prism of stages, phantasmagoria, doors open. They step out to the rooftop poolside terrace, garden and a pool, crepuscle. Special people meet in special chance places this evening with the moon caked in your hair. White streaming bodice moon, mirror flower water moon. I come from Frankfurt, a quivering silver screen. Motion picture sweeping view, emerald ooze courses through rapacious boredom. Lizard brain, a face can be learned. Unhinged back in the stony dusk, silky lattice work, luminescent Lotte. Swan sees herself in a pond in Wannsee. Echo and arcs issues, as one sees herself in a pool in Vaughan. We had so little in Frankfurt. Torn-winged creature folding in his arms, sticky white lily or pure tongue pumps a whimper, a shibboleth, a wind machine. A little further along. René looks down from the ledge at the Park Plaza Hotel at all the special and ordinary people. Ants at the intersection. Who could even tell which of them had been a someone? And inside all those sun-glared buildings, trading papers and signatures, industriously refining something like sugar. Who would ever believe that René Goldman once stood on the edge of the Park Plaza Hotel, of the window behind him now, crepuscle, looking down at the fuzzy intersection of heads, of gaping mouths, and beaks trumpeting from 6 feet away in glass houses with no doors. Or worse, whining through noses that underwent the knife. Shayna Madel trying to look like un schönes Mädchen, like the one in his arms right now. René begins to feel angry, to think how close he'd come before turning himself in to 38 Rose Hill Road. There's actually ahead, I should have said that. To wards, wings, people fluttering, a cross on the wall above a hospital bed, a deflated helium balloon wavering at the ledge of the Park Plaza Hotel, where a woman is melting in his arms right now. Sticky white lily, your pure tongue pumps a whimper, a shibboleth, a wind machine, dry eyes seek credit card, intimate seeds, keys, plexiglass and a concave mirror, tricks of the trade theater. This is show, bis ich nicht, not till now. Oh, sometimes I fall back into German. Renee has never felt so seen, so attended to, so worthy, so received by a tube suckling a gut hole, the acrid spray of halogen stars. Helical flower, disseminate braided gold, floating bed basket. 7 days and 7 nights, he saw her in morning light. You are my angel. I'm just going to have a sip of water and get into tableau 3. I don't know if I'm reading this very quickly. I have no idea. Just trying hard to put this into 20 minutes. Tableau 3, a modern house. A man with a black beard and a cross on a rope is at the front door, and it's Christmas. A portly woman bequeaths pathos in an urn. Last summer's burn, season's nightshades. A lambskin pear, a surgeon's stare, the cold night air. Lights, camera, the resplendent Wilhelmina in emerald green. La jolie serpentine. Claudia, Gabriello, welcome to our modern home. In open concept design. Plexiglass and a concave mirror, tricks of the trade theater. Through the archway underneath the balcony is the dinner table. You'll find seats with your names there. There's another who's been working all afternoon under a flesh-tone lampshade, revising a screenplay, a wistful cinema paradiso, and sealing envelopes to Germany. A draft through the French doors, billows of frosted lily curtains. The man of the house steps out. Gabriella and Claudius, welcome to our modern house, where there are no doors and the second floor is a balcony. Bone white with a glass extension facing the yard in open concept design. Renee, the Tarantas returned from their travels with seasons, nightshades, tomatoes stewed. Oh, how they swell, Goldman. To see them hanging on the vines in Sicily, to inhale their perfume. It could lull you to sleep. Please take a seat at the 18th century mahogany table where there are holes in the engravings, twice infested with termites. Waltz across the hall. It's a little later on again. Gabriello wipes his mouth, pours everyone a glass of wine. To our director, our producer, to Cassandra, the after party. Renee takes a swig. Did Wilhelmina tell you? We're off to Europe for summer screenings. And there's something else to toast. Renee and I are engaged. Well, I wouldn't quite say. Congratulations. Thank you. I used to sell engagement rings and wedding bands. Now I have my own. The customers used to enter in twos. They all look the same. The diamonds, I mean. They all look the same, but if you look closely, the quality is different. There should be no or little color, and they should be cut in such a way at just the right angle so that light can enter them. Keep looking, and you are lost like a child in a modern house where there are no doors and the second floor is a balcony. You stand on this Arctic terrace, listening to adult voices, a clatter of glass and silverware, echoes. what a beautiful dinner set. Thank you, my ex-wife chose them. And these stunning candlesticks. Wilhelmina chose them. And that suit on the boy in the picture. There was a tailor I liked. And what about the frame? Belonged to my parents. Picked up in Paris, where I'm from. Renee looks out at the frozen yard. Billows of frosted willows. He has a story he wants to tell. It's a story he's been writing for 5 years under a flesh-tone lampshade. It's a script about the very first time he watched a film, a wistful cinema paradiso. The very first time he saw a film in a fishing village full of refugees in Portugal that overlooked the Atlantic, and eating ice cream. My father, valiant brave, hid us from war in a cave, brought us safely to Canada on Passover Eve. Such a rencontre, Renee! The war, Wilhelmina! Gabriello steps forward. He's been meaning to say. He's heard about what happened, the ex-wife, the in-laws, the family. He knows about the partners. They know about the companies, burnt bridges, the industry. He sees Renee, Wilhelmina's broken voice. It is false what they say about Renee, what they all say. He knows about climbing to the rooftop of the Park Plaza Hotel years before. Crepuscle. Divine interception, fate had it. Wilhelmina be brought to him, recognize him, revive him. She and her angels. Renee begins to feel angry. Gabriello cracks a smile, turns to place his hand on Renee's shoulder. He wants him to know that there'll be much more time for all of them and for just the two of them. And there will be many dinners. Christmas from now on will take place at their place. They have a son who imports and a daughter who can sing. Welcome to our modern family. An open concept design.
Okay, yeah.
Swan sees herself in a pond in Ponze. Swan sees herself.
Wilhelmina takes a slow breath. I spent the first year unraveling finances with relatives. With relative ease, Renee flails keys, leaves the drawers half empty. When I came on the scene, his son seen fumbling, socks and coins and things. To find Renee in such a state, the Goldman family, the hate. My dear Wilhelmina, who found me, a bog of responsibilities to other people, pulled me up from the rows of gaping mouths and beaks trumpeting their complaints in a fucking modern house with no doors. Much made muck, you've made me. Gabriello's the one to raise the crimson cup. To Wilhelmina's Renee, more and more his own man each day. But I should tell you about a dream. Renee adjusts his toupee. I keep having. I'm a baby, an amorphous being, washed up to shore by a woman with golden hair. Flooded from all sides, from below, an inverted sort of halo. Because my eyes are soaked with water and because of the blind spot in my left eye, everything is blurry. When I can finally see, I see instead a stilted head and body. A woman who has poised herself into an S shape, unmoving. Lover or mother, I can see up her nostrils and through the cavities into her eyes. What can only be described as an absence, a deserted factory, moist and dripping with the cries of children, wandering through the dark with a candle in search of a man. Then I hear the voices of my dead parents, foreboding, betrayal. Gabriello leans in. Betray the salt, maybe. You look as though you've seen a ghost, Renee. To Renee and his queen, to this opal evening, the moon caked in your hair, the moon approves your nuptials. The moon, the moon, the moon. Last of all, to this heavenly house I make a toast. Bone white with a glass extension that faces the property. Skylight divine, an open concept design. Now let us go outside, the evening sky stretched out like a stiff white bedsheet. The sunset's crimson seep. Let us waltz across the hall, a pair of twos, through the echoes of voices, the clatter of glass and silverware, the framed children. Swan sees herself in a pond in Wannsee, in two pools of misery. Thank you. Thank you, Brenda.
Was amazing. Thanks so much. God, that was absolutely amazing. Wow. Thank you so much, Lara. I would love to hear the whole piece, of course. Wow. And the looping you did, brilliant. But we have to move on very quickly because we're running out of time. And Giovanna Riccio, is that how you say Riccio? Is up next. So we'll just barrel on.
Further ado, yes. I'll just tell you that Riccio means hedgehog. It's Italian for hedgehog. All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out on this terribly cold night. I thought, whoa, nobody's going to be there, and it's a full house. Thank you so much. Poetry really deserves that. Anyway, I'm going to begin by reading a poem that I've been wanting to write a long time. It's about Eve, Adam and Eve leaving the Garden of Eden. It's called Alphas. Hustling phonemes, the serpent subtly loops her unsung body. Syllables insinuate round ankles, hips, ribs, round unversed breasts. When the talking head leans in, despite the thou shalt not threat, their tete-a-tete stirs a divine yen for the ruby fruit's eye-opening pith. Her mouthy bite breaks skin. By her hand, the apple sounds the alpha letter. Now, bossy curses call heaven to heal. Grind rebel lip to a dust-sucking reptile. Exile mom and dad to lowly servant stigs where all the clocks start ticking. Still, the bygone dome spells an underwritten home mortgaged to a graybeard who drops in adios palms a clot of moonlit earth, the outlaw seed clotted in its core. Slamming the garden gate, Adam's free hand whirls a soiled fist to shake at the fatal word planted now in every tongue at birth. She inhales outcast air, tang of sea, musk sass of terra firma. I think, I conceive, says Eve. You know the word written on every tongue at birth after they're thrown out of the garden. Death. They enter the world of time. This is, I'm reading a series of Gaza nocturnes. So you know the nocturne is a classical piece of music. and it has a lot of repetition in it called the ostinato. So this is one of them. Earth-splitting thunderous roar, megabomb fire flash, hellish smoke blooms a news flash. No evidence of war crimes, declares the press secretary. Babes crushed, body piles on screens at the military museum. War's worn out shoes waiting. Tiny dismembered feet of Gazan children land in piles of shoes at the Auschwitz Museum. Mothers' bones clamoring beneath rumbling homes. Bloodlines collapsing in rubbled bones. Mothers ululating their mouths, bleeding names. Crushed names, crimson lips. Wails of newborns flail for dead mothers. The mother of all bombs, crimson their cries. The after image, blooding screens. Screens we wipe clean each day. No evidence. Now I'm going to read from my book, Plastic's Republic, featuring the Barbie suite. So this is Barbie meets Plato. This is a book where I've combined, seriously, I've combined, every section starts with a quote from the Republic, and there is even one section where Socrates visits Barbie in the dream house, and they have a dialogue and discover amazing likenesses between the two of them, aside from rosé wine. Anyway, but this is really the history, a good chunk of it is the history of Barbie. And everything in here is factual, it's all researched. And you might know that Mattel was, well, after the Barbie movie, Ruth Handler was the co-founder of Mattel with her husband, Elliott. And the way they presented Ruth Handler in that movie was ridiculous. She didn't have a maternal bone in her body. She was a cutthroat businesswoman, and her husband was the artist. But this is called My Barbie, and she conceived of Barbie after watching her daughter, Barbara, who the doll is named after, playing with those flat cutout dolls that were very popular in the 1950s. And you had the cutout doll and little cutout dresses that were paper, and then you folded them over the doll, blah, blah, blah. And they had a toy company, and she said, what about if I made a real doll with breasts? Well, they said no mother will buy a doll with breasts for her daughter. Boy, were they wrong. $1 billion dolls sold since then. This is called My Barbie. It's in Ruth Handler's voice. My Barbie would one day fly solo, be jet fuel for so many long shots. But in the beginning, what was there? Me and the dolls of the United States of America. Hollow manufactured mothers marooned in dollhouses, sham babies in prams, the con of straight-bodied ginnies closing their weighted, sleeping eyes. There was my daughter Barbara, dressing paper models, folding her imagination over the country's flattened women who weren't up to navigating the future's curve. Matt and Elliott were there, coupled as Mattel. We had the burp gun and Yucadoodle, and me proposing this doll, probing beyond male myopia. Sure, Sputnik and Explorer were upon us. In research and design, Jack was launching toy rockets and engineering the hip angle for my brainchild. He understood high-energy physics. How God is in the details, how a beautiful girl has her own rate of spin. This is in Barbara Handler, the daughter's voice, and the doll was named after her. She hated it. She was really, really messed up and got married at 18 because she wanted a family. And her father had designed a super modern house. Her mother was a businesswoman, and it's the 1950s. All she wanted was Formica and home-cooked meals. But she got something else. And it was called So You're Barbie. She never allowed anyone to call her Barbie. An absent-minded theft, the name muddle. Were Barbie and Barbara both daughters? Or maybe we were both her dolls. This assumes equality, though, and notice how quickly words bleed ink without your consent. I still put up with the paper doll creation story, even retell myself how I inspired that heady offspring, a chance collusion feeding my mother's determination to play God in the world of young girls. Who names a busty playgirl with un-American aspirations after her own Yankee flesh and blood? Was it an act of homage, of tender due, a public namesake when I needed protection from too much modernity? Most days, Mom was all momentum, speeding off in her Thunderbird convertible, drawn by the gravity of a miniature cosmos, the pull of tiny manicured hands, the import of scaled waistbands and zippers. Barbie, she'd sometimes call me, when it had always been Barbara or Babs. Truth be told, didn't she love Barbie more? Now, this is in Barbie's voice. She turned 50 in 2009. And so I wrote this as if she were speaking on her 50th birthday. It's called A Happy 50th. I've outlived Betsy, Wetsy, and Chatty Cathy. Bypassed diapers, bib dresses, cute baby Janes. I am not arrested mothering and never a finished woman. Since Malibu 1971, my once sideways gaze looks straight into every girl's heart. I'm plastic in the original sense of the word. The matter behind your need for personal theater for the preview. Calculated to be pivotal, I'm a living doll selling my own bill of goods. Many have traced me, but none racked up my success. I'm a 50-year-old publicly traded doll, always Barbie, playing to a made-up moment in a reality near you. Okie doke. So I'm debating here whether to read this. Oh, well, that's okay. Oh, please. Anyway, okay. Well, I'm going to read this one here. Now, this book is in different sections. As I said, it's all research. There's a section called Human Barbies because there are many manifestations of human Barbie who are very famous. And, of course, Cindy Jackson was the first one, and she did not claim that name. It was given to her by the media. And but there is a movement called plastic positive people who have plastic surgery that is very blatant and obvious, and that's because they say they consider their bodies to be a work of art, and the plastic part is part of their working out what they want their bodies to be. And if you consider where things are going these days, why not? So this is Rodrigo Alves from the Plastic Positive Movement, and he said that he was born with this body that was not his body, and all his life he's been trying to get the body that is really him and express himself. So at one point he would live stream his surgeries, and at one point he had 4 ribs removed to try and narrow his waist, and so this is in his voice. It's called Plastic Positive, Rodrigo Alves, The Human Ken. A heartbreak it was coming of age, the worst kind of youth. The body bullied, and you, such a tender boy, an innocent shut in flesh and all its cagey bars. Insoluble words, the belly poof love handles man boobs. Chin too square, the negroid nose shoved into a urinal, and you, a blubbering dummy, ripe for dysmorphia's mindful master to pull on the nightlight, switch reflection. A tragedy coming of age on television, in the surgical contours of the rich and famous, ever on mirror watch, fielding flabby, ego-needling wrongs, to arrive banished each day on the other side of that physique, quixotic, a loser exacting a life's work to extract error, reap a bona fide self. Bequeathing elders soon bankroll that birthright, your eyes Bunwell lancets floating on screens, where the con art carving of Hollywood hacks renders cutting-edge muses from synthetic stone. You, the nose job, cheek implant, justified jaw, you chiseled and chastised, you mirror, not you. Self-cited creator, peak cheekbones, peck implants, peekaboo cat eyes, not again you. No sweat the fake six-pack, YouTube gore streaming live, press on to the man inherent in plastic. To dissect Sans Atlas, piece together the opus, then unpiecing four ribs be both Adam and Eve. And a few days on, you're a post-op photo op, checked out in the tabloids, doing the Harlequin strut. Tube draining toxins, stylish the flow, color tied to your jacket, blood satin lined. Flash the martyr's cup, pooling crimson, a thorny-eyed son's own sacred heart. For beauty crucifies, an overweight mind layers on fat. Your seeker's waist, looking no thinner, you feel no smaller, lost in God's gaze. Alone in the dark, stabbing lungs, damned breathing, where's the incision to flatline the screen? For diffuse in the glow, your flocks bearing witness, post after post, just one more passion play. Remember, transcendence, one choice cut away. Thank you. I have this book for sale. Okay. I tried to leave you time, George. You can get, yeah.
That is an amazing and brilliant book. You should buy it and read it. It's phenomenal. She's also featuring at Beatrice's event. A talk, yeah, that'll be amazing. Sorry I was intrusive, but her face was hidden by the mics, and when I'm editing the video, I get quite frustrated when, why didn't I just stand up and do something? So that camera won't be as, whatever. So I apologize to everybody, but, I'm a videographer, what can I say? Okay, so our last feature is a totally amazing man who's won, I think, every award this country can grant. Shameless promotion. He's a Governor General's Award winner. He was a Poet Laureate of Toronto, Poet Laureate of Canada, or of the world. He should be. He will be. I've listened to his biography. You can get the audiobook on Libby. Highly recommend taking it out, and amazing story where you've come from and who you are now. And I'm just so absolutely honored to feature and present to you George Elliott Clarke.
Wow, amazing. What a great honor it is to be here this evening. And I just want to chime in and add that Giovanna's book is absolutely great, and you should get hold of it as soon as possible. starting tonight, actually. What a great honor it is and privilege it is, and also a great sorrow to be bringing to a close this particular series of readings that Brenda has put together and has nursed and sired and overseen and directed.
Midwife.
And midwifed quite effectively. So again, a great honor to be asked to be here tonight and to close out the reading. And I am very conscious of the time. And so I will launch into the reading. And it is, I'll be reading entirely from Canticles, which is an epic poem. It's 3,000 pages, over 6 volumes, starting, first one was published in 2016.
That's a big book, George. You can't read that in 15 minutes.
Yeah, you're right. So it's just going to be an excerpt. I could be tempted, but no, I'll take it easy. This is the Song of Solomon, a Hebrew scripture, but my version of it. This is number 2. From the Song of Solomon, King James Version, KJV, etc., etc. The bride is speaking. Light's aroma, that's me. A serene mirror set amid rubble, but reflecting only the sun. So is my love, derisive of rivals. Stern sunlight driving off a blizzard. So is my beloved vis-a-vis Don Juan pests. Rouse me with chilling glacier-borne waves, spiky saline whiffs, lest I drowse, narcotized by love. My man's as steady as salt shaken free falling, but I'm as juicy as a frothing just bitten apple. Oh, ye daughters of Jerusalem, I charge ye, do not press my beloved with tasks. Never must ye distract him from my bed. As steady as butter melting and skidding across a skillet, so is my beloved as spry and as sizzling and as steamy as an ember, gone as limber as a spark. My beloved is like a chevalier, a poet. He harries incorrect newsprint. He erases doubtful statistics. Never are his verses greasy, sugary, fatty, cheesy, salty, or buttery. Never are they mushy, porridge, a hash. My beloved spake last night saying, nomadic snow is gone, and plum-like clouds are set to douse branches with a resurrection of blossoms. Oh, my poet, my ally, my prayerful bard, thou art in and out of print, in and out of favor, but let me hear thy words tenored with gravitas, for they're as stately and unalterable as Gibraltar. For they're as stately and unalterable as Gibraltar. Let us sort out gardeners from gravekeepers, though both are as tough-minded as gangsters. My beloved is my lover, I'm his companion, his wife. He drowses within my light, black light that is jet against his skin. Until dawn uprises and shadows turn as phantasmal as recollected flames. Oh, my beloved, succor me. That's Enfield, Nova Scotia, 7th of February, 2017. Still keep an eye on the time, as it is so rapidly going. This is the Gospel of X. The voice of Jesus, my version. I'm sure my father is God, that God is my father. I was born of milk, not blood. I came to light outside my mother's flesh. Before an audience of dazzled cattle, attentive lambs, my legs kicked at the air. A newborn as incarnadine as my mama's womb. Truly, I was as infallible as any infant. The man I call Pappy, this carpenter who can fashion no poem, hied us down to Egypt as half-caste outcasts, Jews in a romance province. The stories told that a special star, a triangular moon like a diamond blazing, navigated our way, away from the blood-hungering belly of a satrap nervous of prophecies, who dispatched legions to hack to pieces a baby male population. Some old timers never hesitate to call my birth a curse, one entailing the hurried sudden massacre by provincial fiat of their boys, squalling infants and pissing toddlers. They whispered too that Pappy felt tricked by Mom, that my paternity is suspect, but the white-haired midwives gossip. All was set right when somehow at my side a coconut palm just drooped down as my mother wept and gave Pappy its fat and milk. Among the Egyptians, those sepia and copper and ivory people, much was made of my yellow ochre complexion, gold plated like the sun, but also of Pappy's clay skin and lava blood, and of Mum, her eyes large with light, a pretty street Cleopatra, so sang the papyrus jongleur, those high-maintenance poets so easily loosened up by liquor who were capable of quaffing their own vomit or shitting in a public fountain. They are eternal proof that intelligence and intoxication prompt ridiculous antics. Egypt says she invented eternity. Verily, I saw time driven away, expelled into darkness, dragging all light with it into exile. In Egypt, we were historic immigrants and potential penitents and converts, or so their antique priests dreamt. In our house of old wood, palm wine and music lit up our gaudy kinship. Yet, despite even fat bastard in the jug, Pappy was often moody. Neighbors whispered he was as gullible as a carpenter in a lawyer's office, given his blatant betrayal by Mom. Some nights, Pappy sat brown and stocky in our doorway, sat as huge as a side of beef sliced off in an abattoir, and both Mom and me kept aloof as we watched him scrutinize stars and then study the dirt at his feet. When I turned 12, Pappy turned us back to Jerusalem, and I sat in ink-stained wooden desks, auditing preachers and philosophes who were also perfect panderers and fakes. They spoke so lusciously they could almost sell a whore to God. Truly, they were poshly poetic, but their prayers rhymed finely with profit, P-R-O-F-I-T. When I bandied scripture with them, reversing their hypotheses, hypocrisies with their own verses, I'd frighten the fuck out of them. And they'd whine, "Who the hell you think you are, an apprentice messiah?" Exegesis takes smart techniques, metaphysics that nix quizzes. Papa'd worry when these hyenas mobbed me, and so to please him I became as awfully silent as God. Even so, Pappy's hammer words forged a ringing model for my own. When I reached 30, I put away my childish rectitude, my facile virtue, and put myself out to temptation. I drifted out into the desert. I stumbled over the dusty bodies of the Roman executed, rotting, face down in the dirt, though the night's blackness was alive with throbbing stars. I envisioned incarnate that race of bliss, women, and I was shaken. My cold, unshared bed had never warmed to a punk out to skunk some spunk, or a lady eager to get right down and damn indecent, as the tavern poets recite, even though my buddy swore you gotta wallow wholly in smut. Tap philosophy from the way an ass bobs and jumps. My mates prodded me to swive soon and often. Magdalena is the choicest sweet, her long legs angled to a point of wet baptism, her untidy nudity, her unparalleled hips must be paralyzing, her ankles copper jewelry, a gold promise at night, the promise of her like toffee, earth-brown flavor, a hickory scent, the prophecy of a hell of a heavenly time, especially should I take title to her teats, muster, master, her tawny lust, and brand her my wife, and I do want a womb to buckle rod and suckle child, and end my endless fretting over salvation. Death, this sad disease, should not exist. Could I straddle MM in silk, saddle her with kids, lay out cake and milk, maybe I'd explore humdrum worries, tinker with minute household concerns, and die in well-earned decrepitude. But happy, boisterous, a magnum of wine at my elbow, grandbabies on my lap, Mary beside me, merry as on our wedding eve, dining on bread that is sweet, drinking bastard that is subtle. In the desert, these visions tore at me. I feel this earth is fastened to a tyrant sun, so saints go to dust and shrouds. Distress ain't alien to this orbit. There is never enough virtue, no matter how plentiful the swords. There is never enough virtue, no matter how plentiful the swords. I saw a whole seabed of stars, hellish cities lit up like Sodom, awaiting my soothing governance. I also saw churches full of hunger and ranked, Bible dark faces desperate to know my pleasure. In the desert, these visions tore at me. I decided to forge my own stride. I'd sourly brew, then go about scattering sunlight wisdom like melted butter and honey, and deliver the promise of fish to anxious hooks. And at that fiesta at Cana, I blushed water into wine, so perfumes acquired operatic pungency, and the usually hangdog Moors plunged their faces into cups, and everyone partayed so heartily, got so liquored up and fat with cake, there was nothing to do but rise and clomp, clomp home. Back in Jerusalem, I bullwhipped bullshitters out the temple, and at every jaw's corner my question marks struck at naysayers like sickles scything down wheat. Multitudes thronged. I touched cripples and they tossed away canes and crutches. One dead guy, Lazarus, bro to Mary de Magdala, danced right up out his grave, not only sprightly but melodramatically 20 years younger. I eschewed adulation but sought an audience. What preacher don't want a church? Soon I attracted disciples a dozen, and the crowds could have, with a nod from me and some miracle of charity, healing the dead, fattening the hungry, conceived themselves an army and menaced the civic powers. I set a direction for poverty and my nominal coterie, and I went about virulently penniless. Yet fame won us feasts and flowers. Those I saved from sick beds and cemeteries celebrated us with gold. Judas warned, worship is a prison. I told the masses, begged them to give to Caesar all he demands, every tribute, every hosanna, and I never diverted a dime from plutocrats. I even harried the poor to pay their taxes. Still, Rome got nervous, my critics got jealous, satanically envious, and now I am where I am. Wine drills me like a knife. Peter, that gruff saint, breaks a hunk of bread, handsome to stave off our allotted rotting. No faith is to be put in Judas, who swears religion is poetry clarified as law. Religion is poetry clarified as law. Thank you. He has his backers among the Pharisees, so politically brutal, personally dreary, physically dirty, and stylistically dull. But the price of their praise is his sullen, silvery treason. Tomorrow I'll face a rodent-hearted, rat-eyed impresario who'll schedule my conspicuous execution, a dandy crucifixion. He'll spread blood over his throne, splash it all over his crown. I go now to my garden, danger, Gethsemane. And I'll just read one small final part from this poem, cutting it short, and then I'll...
6 more hours and listen to George Elliott Clarke, please.
Thank you, Patrick. And then I'll end up with a short piece from Canticles. Oh, hey, you're, okay. All right, well, hey, Brenda, thank you so very much. I appreciate that. All right, but continuing. When Rome's paid thugs, swords glittering wildly in moonlight, swarmed to imprison me, Peter plied in all business anger, lopped one copper's ear who yelled, I said, don't let that motherfucker keep his sword. And you all let him keep his fucking sword. Shit, now look, my ears completely fucked. The crimson rupture also splattered his confrere legionnaires. I calmed the chaos, erased the blood squirting from the injured cop's head, repaired his ear, but Peter took advantage of the lull and fled. It was one unsatisfactory victory. Once won for strutting, Peter turns now the stuttering saint. His actions and retractions prefigure Hamlet. Now here's Pappy sobbing, wondering why I don't just turn this cross into a chariot. And here's Mom weeping, and there's Mary thinking I've turned my back on her, on us, even though she used her hair to towel my feet, used her tears as oil. Yes, I'd like to strut, then droop with luxury, enjoy a gold leaf orgasm with Mary, plum-herd, no doubt, honeying hips, sheer wine, saturated cake, and make love filthier and filthier, louder and louder unto the strophes, catastrophe of nectar. My destiny is to transcend a bittersweet corpse, so omit any obit in favor of this gospel. Ah, God, my sweet God, my separation from all the world, this midnight darkened sun now in, mirrors a lover who eyes a girl but spies the bones beneath her skin, that visible mortality, refuting lust and lechery. Don't muse on doom, but know the grave fulfills its promise. Every eye is a ghost story. You explain yourself, your presence, and the moral is angst. Each and every origin is Genesis in repetition, Gehenna prophesied by Eden. The earth trembles and shudders. Light sluices down black holes. The stars collapse like dominoes. Against this deep violet sky, I want to know I am before I become I was. The world creaks on in its bloody course. Nobody feels anything quite painless, actually. I would gladly trade places with the grave. Thank you. And I appreciate the extra couple of minutes.
We got 10 more minutes.
Oh, sincerely?
Oh, yeah, I was like, we're just getting started in there. We need 10 more.
Yeah, no, see, he's enjoying.
Well, thank you so very, very much. All right, I promise you I will not abuse the extra time, but I'm happy to have it, though, at the same time, and we'll read a couple of pieces from this book. Oh, by the way, all these books are for sale, only $20. Only $20. And I can even make change. And anybody who wants to buy 3 books, you get them for $50. Only 50. Only $50. There you go. All right. So this is. I'm from Nova Scotia, as many of you know. I'm from the historical Black community in Nova Scotia. Our church that many of us belong to, a church association, was founded in 1853. And I will share with you the good news that I was baptized into that church on April 9th, Easter Sunday, 2023. And so, thank you. And so this poem is a reflection on, from a more blasphemous point of view. I'm still a poet. Even if I'm a Baptist, I'm still a poet. So this is the letter to the Africadian Baptist Messiah, and it actually rhymes. Tons upon tons of cold afflict us here, positive Nova Scotians of negative character. This province is nothing but a royal brothel. Bad, deficient proves each female. The best of our lot are just mesmerizing scum, dubbing this nauseating swamp Elysium, Incest thrives here, twixt cradle and gallows. In white Genesis, stallions stab into sows. Agony of desire compels us to sin. Pleasure plies its ominous religion. Hazy chair is ours. Redemption is complex. Our mission is salvation via intermissions of sex. Our mission is salvation via intermissions of sex. Les putains de merde, oh nature généreuse. These unprecedented parasites leak glaucous mucus. They live by joining in unhygienic contest. Shit-soused each pute imputes a putrid antichrist. Their love has two faces, jouissance and intense sorrow. They stroll bow-legged from seance to seance. Here, the whorehouse discourse of salt, wet, and fish. All along the docks, one can smell burning fish. Glorious gynecology has come to this. Not bland or blind or blonde, thou art blunt black being from beyond. To forestall fault finding, fires and flood, you accept agony upon the rood. Smoke laureled heads and blood lacquered hands prefer you dead as ghostly phosphorescence. The clergy are treasonous as they are always. Their sermons distill poison they deem delicious. Each preacher is as sincere as a courtesan. Their facades mirror the Sphinx insolence. Prophet frauds, those library libertines compose a codex gigas to damn all gullible Negroes, entrusted with diamonds but encrusted with blood. Governors erect, rood after rood. In Golgotha, you meet antique assassins' daggers, the questioning eyeballs of dissatisfied beggars, unquestionable sluts, bankers clad in sober black, cold soldiers whose whips burn up your turned back, a provisional deluge of curses, a draft of blood, a blessing of vinegar till sorrow trickles into mud, as violent as vultures gnawing a corpse, whips prey upon thee so thy spine warps. Thy fine dark face unconquerable king is laced with spittle during thy ruddy scourging, the epitome of pity and so pitiable. Thou art hogtied, hornswoggled like any criminal. A glut of light in autumn copper and mauve flares. Halloween harvest brightens Christmas stove. Dying is always in December. Reviving is reserved for Easter. Should you return too early, it will be too late. Love that whore loves none save those who love hate. Be that unexpected Christian, never hostage to religion but hostile to bavardage. Truth is torment. Truth is torment. Truth is torture, never dormant. Set hearts afire on every side. Scourge us of lust. Purge us of pride. Hew from scripture bright pearls of verse, new stars to light the Ethiop universe. From time to time lead poets back to poetry. Let each scribe torch the Bastille in the library. Damnable poets speak volumes and say nothing. Their revelations disperse in gaseous vomiting. The disciple of negligent hand, careless of a pure style, serves malicious palaces. Thy true poets press ink from crushed wasps' nests. Books father books. Knowledge is promiscuous. The trumpet of poetry sounds ever hideous. Thus, if honest preaching sounds insidious, I have coffee and cocaine, my solitary pension. Suppose it's how I oppose decomposition. I eat pastries, drink pasty, and parley with all. Heretical history, Salmagundi intellectual. My cafe face looms bold from the crowd when brittle light grimy rhyme is the little that's allowed, and my useless mouth amuses bitches and sluts, the stalkers of vineyards and the tavern poets. My scorpion of black ink stings the sugar page. My verse is vinegar or wine of bitter vintage, but art is cruel and eternity uninhabitable. But art is cruel and eternity is uninhabitable. And I will end with something a little lighter and happier, if not quite happy-go-lucky. But actually, no, I'm not going to end with something happier. I'm going to end with something that's actually germane to this moment. And even though the poem I'm going to read was unexpectedly prescient, if I may say so, of this particular moment. And it's the title of the poem is The Recent Transit Through Washington, D.C., 1816. The Recent Transit Through Washington, D.C., 1816. It's in the voice of a character, a black preacher by the name of Richard Preston, who's on his way to Nova Scotia from Washington. So you'll decide for yourselves whether it's applicable to 2025. Everybody's a fugitive in that city. So clanging be the alarms, clamor of sirens, chimes, with cops eyeing sharpshooters on roofs. Cops eyeing sharpshooters on roofs. Constant loom threats, bullseyeing the president. Nervous city, galling city, white marble sluicing blood. Editorials holler war versus England or Spain. Either targets sport for profiteering. Pages imprinted can be like mud, down sucking each forward plod. Cloudy is the tap water. Malaria rises insurgent out the miasma. That's the Potomac. Congress, so many bow-tied mannequins lying straight out their lungs. An injurious winter freezes their postures, prostrate, supine, crucified. Look at Washington, a king, minus a crown, was an inhuman monarch, odious as the crowned skulls of Europe. I seen the white derelicts licking caviar out of dumpsters, the pig-faced whores civil as devils, the homeless waifs bidding down on cardboard outside the burnt shell of the Brit-torched Congress. Gunshots outnumber flu shots, Natch. Guns are more plentiful and beloved than be the Bible. Even priests brandish outlandish cannons here. White marble, chocolate city, center of orgies of centaurs and nuns, bulls and bitches snuffling and scuffling in bed each midnight. Here, faith is always going downgrade, for evil can't be rinsed away, unlike watercolors. Here, cannibalism is synonymous with candor. Here, the murders of niggers just vanish. I see my bushman's blood gush red into black type, my caste, my ruthless dye. My problem is, I recall the phantom slaves, a touch of smoke upon the Potomac, that historians paper over with gilt, G-I-L-T. My brittle treble troubles the resonant glaze of ink, but you need dark yellow tequila and a brazen brass trumpet to wipe away piss yellow journalism. But you need dark yellow tequila and a brazen brass trumpet to wipe away piss yellow journalism. Piss yellow journalism. Civilization is exacting, but America is only merely play acting at civility. Civilization is exacting, but America is only merely play acting at civility. Washington, District of Columbia, 11th of December, 2000. And Berlin, Germany, 8th and 9th of March, 2013. And Tropea, Italia, 6th of June, 2017. Thank you so much, Linda.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, George. You covered so much territory there. Like I wouldn't even know where to. Wow. I like your Bible, by the way, very much. So thank you, everybody who came out. I have a table reserved at Victory Cafe. I reserved it for 20, so please come if you are so inclined. And
open because they're expecting 20 people.
Yeah, you better all come. Yes. So it's been 11 years. I started in February 2014, and here we are at the end of January 2025. And I cannot believe that I've gone with this series this long. Wow. And there's a massive YouTube channel called Minstrels and Bards with everything, except for a few that I wasn't happy with the sound, but I'm probably going to upload them anyway at some point. So if you've ever featured or done a 5-minute spot, you're there. And just thank you, everybody, for all your support. And I hope I've done you all justice. Some absolutely brilliant, marvelous, talented poets and musicians, and support everybody's creativity. It's been a very loving, supportive, wonderful series. I've had nothing but the best audiences. I've had, amazing poets come out and musicians. I'm just so grateful for the last 11 years. So, yeah, thank you. I'm the one who's, grateful. Yeah. So, yeah, I hope you can join us for a drink or... Ours. Yes. We'll claim our victory. Yes. Right on. Yep.
I like that. Yes, I am. Yeah.